thought I had someone thinking.
What is up, you guys? This is All Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you an updated build breakdown for Psylocke. So, I don't think not many of you have actually asked for an updated version. I just thought, I might as well post an updated version of her build because, this build that I'm using now is actually a lot better than the ones I posted. But you have to keep in mind this build is probably best used for players who are pretty much min-maxed or have high stats, I suppose. So I'll just let's go ahead and go straight through with the skills. So pretty much everything is still the same. Kind of, you have Falling Lotus Strike, you're using Psionic Projection, I'll tell you why later, Katana Typhoon, Assassinate, Psionic Vortex, Psionic Assault, Psy Thrust, and Ethereal Butterflies. So Ethereal Butterflies is your signature, so that's a given right there. Psy Thrust, it was either going to be Psy Thrust or the Shadow Dash. Psy Thrust, you can choose one or the other. Psy Thrust will regenerate 15% of your Psionic Barrier, and Shadow Dash will put you into stealth. So you can choose whichever one you decide to choose. I just went with Psy Thrust because I don't know, I just felt like it. Psionic Assault, you want to keep both of these. Well, the real reason why you want to keep Psionic Vortex is to pull your enemies in, but it's a nice bonus that you make your enemies 10% more vulnerable. Well, they're vulnerable, which means they take 10% more damage, and that lasts for 8 seconds. The reason why you want Psionic Assault is because, well, it's a spammable AoE ability, and it does like 2 seconds of damage over time. It also slows your enemies down and their attacks too, and it makes them weaker by 10%. So, and that's a 6-second duration for the weakened duration. So you want to have Assassinate because this is going to be one of your high damage dealing ability, I suppose, because as you can see, it's an execute ability, and the base damage by itself is actually pretty high as well, and it also stuns your enemies too, 2-second stun. And there's a talent where you you have 100% crit hit chance, so Assassinate is going to be a huge step up for your damage. Katana Typhoon it's a nice AoE ability, a melee AoE ability, and if you're in stealth, for example, if you're using Shadow Dash and you're in stealth, Katana Typhoon won't break you out of stealth, so that'll be good to use. But yeah, this is a really strong, and it's a nice AoE ability to have. Psionic Projection. So the reason why you're going to be using this is because you're going to just basically be spamming Psionic Projection, because one, it puts you into stealth, two, it's a summon ability, so all of your attacks that you do, not necessarily all of your attacks, but Falling Lotus Strike and Katana Typhoon, and Assassinate, whenever you use those 3 abilities, your Psionic Projection does those exact abilities as well. So I believe Katana Typhoon is one of them. It won't hit as hard, but it will still deal extra damage, and that's three or 4 extra projectiles too, projections. So that's definitely going to help you. Even though there's a talent where you can consistently summon your Psionic Projections, it's always good to have this, just because it basically takes the aggro off of you and puts it onto your Psionic Projections for a few seconds, and then you'll get aggro back because you only have a 3-second stealth duration. And then Falling Lotus, for obvious reasons, being one of your basic attacks. There will be, I guess, some people saying that Psy Strike might be better to use. There's or Tsunami Slash. Any of those 3 can really work. I guess even Psy Crush could work, but in my opinion, the Falling Lotus is going to be better for you because, well, one, Psionic Projection lets you're able to use Falling Lotus Strike with Psionic Projection, and every time you spam Falling Lotus Strike, your projections use that. but your projections can't use Tsunami Slash, they can't use Side Strike, and they can't use Side Crush. So that's one of the reasons why I use Falling Lotus Strike. Also, it does bleed damage as well. So, well, yeah, it does bleed damage as well. So, for your talents, Protected Mind or Butterfly Swarm. So the reason why I say or Butterfly Swarm is because this technically would put out more damage because of the cooldown reduction. But if you're going for more survivability, like for me, I went with Protected Mind because it's, I mean, the cooldown isn't bad, it's not too long anyways. So I just went with this. That way I can get my Psionic Barrier back, and you get the guarded effect, guarded buff effect, which applies to all your allies. And what buff effect guarded does, or the guarded buff effect, I guess, it increases your base health by 10%, and it gives you 1% of max health regen. And with whenever you use this, I guess, signature, you get the damage resistance as well while it is active. So you get 5% damage resistance plus an additional 5% against mental attacks. So that Protected Mind is really good for defensive-ish type of play with their signature. Butterfly Storm is really good if you're looking to put out more damage over time. Mobile Assassin, definite, you want to use this because you get an extra Shadow Dash or Side Thrust, whichever one you decide to use. Finish the Job, you definitely want to be using this because hold on, instantly restore. Yeah, so with Assassinate, you get 100% crit hit chance, like I said, and also when you use Assassinate, you recharge Katana Typhoon. So you'll have 2 charges for Katana Typhoon. I'm pretty sure you have 2. No, you don't. So you only have 1, I believe, 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter. But whenever you use Assassinate, you get Katana Typhoon. So the next one, I always switch between Cut Once and Side Katana. The reason why is Cut Once gives you a nice damage buff for your melee powers. I don't really use Tsunami Slash. I did use it for a bit. It's not a bad ability. It's actually fairly strong, especially with that 100% damage increase. It makes it really nice to use. But I just stuck with Side. Well, I guess it's called Side Katana. Yeah, I just stuck with Side Katana because you're able to do damage over time with any mental ability you do, and it basically turns all of your katana abilities, all of your melee, whatever, into mental damage. So you just basically do damage over time consistently, and the damage over time lasts for 6 seconds, and all your mental powers is also increased by 10% as well. The last one was Flawless Projection, and Dancing Katana. So if you plan on using Dancing Katana, use Cut Once. That way your katana does more damage. Or you don't have to. You could stick with Side Katana and use Dancing Katana. I'll just talk about Dancing Katana real quick. So the reason why I say Dancing Katana is a really good one to use is because it's based around Falling Lotus and Katana Typhoon. Falling Lotus gets a damage over time effect, or it already has a damage over time, but the damage over time effect is increased by 50% additional damage, and the duration is also increased by 50%. So it's increased by, I guess, 0.5 times more. So, or is it 1.5? Either, I think it's 1.5 times. 100% is 200, or 2 times. So I'm getting all sidetracked. Yeah, Dancing Katana is a good one to use, or Flawless Projection. So I normally use Flawless Projection and Side Katana together. The reason why I use Flawless Projection is because anytime you use a movement ability, which is your Assassinate or your Falling Lotus Strike or the Shadow Dash and the side dash, whatever it's called. What is it called? Side Thrust? Yeah. So anytime you use any of those 4 movement abilities, you cast a Psionic Projection, and also it gives you an additional Psionic Projection, so you can have a total of 4. You'll have a total of 4. If you used Masterful Projection, you'll have a total of 5 Psionic Projections. But I mean, you can use masterful projection or finish the job. I just stuck with finish the job. But the reason why you'd want to use flawless projection is because it says flawless psionic projection creates the maximum allowed projections when activated, blah blah blah. Create a psionic projection whenever you use the movement powers. So you're going to be consistently using your movement power because you're going to be using Falling Lotus Strike. So every time you use Falling Lotus Strike, you cast a psionic projection. Not just that, but if you use your L3 or R2 movement, you'll also cast psionic projections as well. So this is a really nice talent to have. For my synergies, I just went with Beast, Black Panther, Black Widow, Daredevil, Hawkeye, Jean Grey, Psylocke, Scarlet, Squirrel Girl, and War Machine. So I'm not going to tell you what's good and what's not good, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm just going to tell you the reason why I chose these specific synergies. I chose Beast because, well, he gives you intelligence, which is I'm pretty sure it's one of your main attributes. Yeah, so fighting and intelligence. So Beast is a definite because you gain intelligence, which is plus 4% base damage, and you get melee damage as well. So I used Black Panther for the movement speed and the melee power damage. Black Widow for melee and ranged because she uses both of those anyways. And then Daredevil because the melee damage and damage to normals and elites. And then Hawkeye for movement speed and the crit damage. Crit damage is always useful to have. It's probably one of the best synergies to use or to have, in my opinion. Jean Grey because of the psychic power damage, and she gives you range damage as well. So you're going to be using range damage with Vortex, Psionic Vortex and Psionic whatever it's called. Both of those ranged AoE abilities. The next one was Psylocke for obvious reasons. She gets the highest amount of psychic. Or no, it's the same amount of... Yeah, no, it is the highest amount of psychic and the highest amount of melee power damage. And then Scarlet Witch, also one of the best synergies to have because almost every character has damage over time. So you would definitely be using this one. You would definitely want to be using this one because she has a ton of damage over time abilities. Squirrel Girl because 4% extra boss damage is always good to have. And then last but not least, War Machine because extra psionic barrier is always nice, but it's because of the extra fighting attribute you get. So you'll be at a total of 8% base damage right there. And then for my infinity points, let me slot these real quick. For my infinity points, I put my points into... you can either go with intelligence or fighting. I'm probably going to switch it out for intelligence, actually. So yeah, you can go with intelligence or fighting if you have 25 points or more. If you don't, then I would suggest putting your points into mental focus for the extra crit damage, strike through for the extra brutal damage. Potency is okay, but you're not necessarily focusing on your signature as much. I want to say health on hit is probably a big one to use for her. Yeah, health on hit would be a really useful one. Micro warps and gravity well will definitely be useful because she's a very squishy character and she has low amount of health. And temporal loophole because of the movement speed and attack speed will definitely help her out as well. Let me just slot these last points in. And then now let's look at her stats and whatnot. So I'm gonna show you all of my gear, I guess. So for my weapon, I have crit damage, brutal strike, and then I modded it with melee powers. Probably should have put crit hit instead, but it's whatever. For my chest piece, I have brutal damage, sword damage, or sword powers, whatever, and +5 intelligence with +200 health.
I'm here to fight.
I would rather have crit damage instead of sword powers, but sword power is nice and all, so. Or melee powers would have been better. So for my belt, I have crit damage when brutally strike, gain 800 plus 800 damage rating to your summon powers for 10 seconds, and critical hit rating. So that plus 800 damage rating to summon powers is it's really nice for your projections for them to be able to put out more damage. There's one where I believe if you use or you go into stealth, you deal more damage or something, or if you do brutal damage or something. It has to do something with stealth. I completely forgot. I had one, but the other stats were just trash, so yeah. My boots, I have brutal damage, crit hit, and health. My accessory, I have crit damage, and then after being crowd controlled, you gain 1458 defense for 5 seconds. That's not bad. 786 crit hit and 50 health. And then I'm using the Maxwell Jordan's Lost Ring of Stone. I normally don't use this. I'm normally using a nice well-rolled ring, but I mean this is really good to use as well for her because one, you get Sonic Barrier, which is always good because that adds on to more defensive attributes, I guess, because your Sonic Barrier, you don't use your Sonic Barrier as a resource, you use it as a shield. And then the +2 to all attributes, that's 12% base damage right there. And then for my artifacts, I use Cargo's Rewrites for that +3 to all attributes, so 24% extra base damage. I use my modified Cosmically Enhanced Gem of Curse because it has crit damage, crit hit, brutal strike, brutal damage, and I also have you gain one attribute, one to all your attributes while in combat. And then I use Ziggurat of Cargo. Probably not the best in slot for Psylocke, but you know it is what it is, and I get more crit and brutal for her. And this is also good because she's able to move around quicker. And then for my relic, I'm using Complete Relic of Asgard because she's mainly melee damage. She has technically three abilities that are ranged, but I don't focus on those ones. And then for her catalyst, I'm using Become Invisible, or it says Become Invisible for 3 seconds when you use a medkit, which is always useful to have. You gain 418 health when you hit an enemy, so that's really nice. Regenerate 25% of your health up to 3,100 Sonic Barrier when you use your medkit. That's one of the best rolled catalysts you can get. I got +2 fighting, not the highest. I think +3 is the highest, but it is still good. For the cosmic effects, I have gain a damage shield equal to 50% of your max health when you use a medkit, so that's also really nice for Psylocke because of how squishy she is and you know how low of a health she has. So this is definitely a good cosmic effects to have for her. When you use your signature power, gain 1000 defense rating for 5 seconds. That's a really nice roll as well for her because it adds more defense, and which means she gets more defensive perks, more damage reduction. And then for my medallion, I'm using the Juggernaut medallion. Every second moving increases your damage rating to movement powers by 100, up to 1000 damage rating to movement powers, and 1100 damage rating to bosses, and 2650 brutal damage rating. The reason why I'm using the Juggernaut is because I'm always consistently moving with Psylocke. Everything she does is all movement. And then Hermes Winged Sandals is my legendary item. You can either use Hermes Winged Sandals or Muramasa's Blade, I think that's what it's called. The one that does bleed damage, because that one is probably a better one to use if you're looking for more survivability, because the only ability she has that does bleed is her Falling Lotus Strike, but her, her projections can also apply bleed because it's the same ability, just weaker damage. It does slightly less, not slightly, but it does less damage. But Hermes Winged Sandals, I'm using this because one, I love running around with her movement speed like that at 100%, and two, she's all movement powers. Like I'm basically using all movement powers for her, so that's why I'm using Hermes Winged Sandals. And now for her stats, like in my defensive stats, you can definitely see my average effective health is under 30,000, so it's not good really. makes her really squishy, really easy to get killed. Damage reduction 28%. She can take a hit like she can't take a hit. She can practically one-shot it if you're not careful. But my offensive stats are actually really nice. 32-37 crit hit, 82-76 crit damage, 22-45 brutal strike, which could definitely go higher. I would like to get her in the 3000s for her brutal strike, but you know, it's not too important. 11,390 brutal damage, which is really nice to have, and her base damage 140%, and then her melee base damage is at 10.5%. If you use the talent that increases your base damage, then you'll be at a 20.5%. And yeah, so that's basically it for her build. I'll go ahead and show you guys what each ability does. So for her psionic projections, summons 3 of them right here, right away. Assassinate does that. You know, actually, I'm gonna go to a single target. So for her projection, summons all 3, and then use Assassinate. All 3 of your projections also used Assassinate. And then Katana Typhoon, all 3 of them did Katana Typhoon as well. And then with Falling Lotus Strike, you'll see it summons 1, summons another, and summons another. And then you have your 2 ranged abilities, Psionic Vortex and Psionic, whatever it's called, Psionic Assault. So you would normally use Psionic Vortex first, pulls all your enemies in, and then Psionic Assault. Right after you pull them, you use that. That way they're vulnerable and they're weak all at the same time. And then you use your signature. Your signature will consistently hit, and normally it'll hit multiple targets, but I think if you are targeting, like if you use R1 and you're targeting that person, it'll all your ethereal butterflies, whatever, your signature will hit that target. And then you have Psy Thrust. So I guess the rotation, let's go to someone that won't die as fast. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and get started with this. Blah blah blah. Boom, and then just spam your Psionic, your Falling Lotus and all this, and then when you need to, just dash through a couple times. And yeah, that's basically it for her. Oh, and as you can see, I can anytime spam R2 and you can summon your projections. But yeah, that's basically the updated version of Psylocke's build. This is a melee build, not a range build. The reason why I've made a range build before, but I don't use it at all or ever because it's weak compared to her melee build, and it's really not that fun to use. Like I like making my builds fun and useful. So yeah, if this build helped you out at all, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. Remember, this is a very gear dependent build. It's probably meant for those characters that have high damage. If you have high survivability as well, this can definitely help for you as well. But yeah, if you're going for a glass cannon build, this is definitely the glass cannon build to go for. But yeah, if this video helped you at all, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any suggestions and whatnot, go ahead and leave that down in the comment section. If you have any video suggestions that you would like to see, or updated builds that I'll post updated builds of whatever. You don't need to ask about that because I won't have updated builds for everyone. But yeah, if you have any build questions, go ahead and ask me. I'm free to answer it, or someone else can answer it for you. And yeah, this is All Day Day 1 on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and peace.